Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Interesting Modelling Company Sunday service. This isn't quite the show that we were going to do, because we were going to do a celebration of Roy Cross's 100th birthday. The sad news came yesterday that Roy passed away the day after his 100th birthday. So,
yeah.
What an achievement, though. What an achievement.
It kind of the one thing I keep thinking is one of my favorite phrases these days, and I think it's an old Jewish blessing, but it's "May his memory be a blessing."
Yep.
And I think we can safely say that for many tens of thousands of people, his memory is very definitely a blessing.
Oh goodness me! I mean, we'll come to this. We'll come to this when we get the show going. We'll be asking the people watching for their memories and their influences of Roy. But oh my goodness me, I can think of so many people that I know who work in the industry because of Roy's influence.
Plus,
like me.
Let's not forget, 100 years, good drills.
I just,
it's I mean, there's a huge degree of sadness, obviously, but I can't be too sad because it's pretty much, as far as we're concerned, and I would hope as far as he's concerned, it is the very definition of a life well lived, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he outlived my father by 35 years, which is almost another lifetime in itself. We'll eulogize about Roy a bit further on into the show, but yeah, if folks, if you've got your thoughts and comments, Christopher Joseph Buchholz says 100 years and hundreds of remembered artworks, not too bad.
Well, that's it. It's not too shabby, is it?
It's not too shabby. And Steve Moores says, is there any audio yet? Folks, I take it you can all hear us okay. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. Drew, what have you been working on in your workshop this week then?
Well, I've been doing quite a lot of 3D printing actually, but the main thing I've finally, after absolutely months of sort of hanging around the workbench, I finally got the Special Hobby Mirage 3. Well, it's actually a 3C. It's a Shahak. It's a re-engined 3C that Israel donated to Argentina in the mid-80s. So yeah, it's been hanging around my workbench for months, and for some reason I just hit this block with it and couldn't get on with it. And last week I sat down and decided to. Is that all right, or is that?
No, that's okay. Yeah, yeah.
So I decided to blap through and get it finished, and that's exactly what I did. And I have to say, well, we know that I'm a Mirage file anyway, so it's a very nice addition to the collection, I think. I
tell you what, my observation is 72nd scale. Doesn't 72nd scale look small these days?
Yeah, it really does. It's really tiny, and for some reason it's been a 72nd-ish sort of year so far for me, because that was the last one I finished.
Yeah,
I think the one I finished before that was 72nd. Oh yeah, the Fairy Delta, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I've returned to my roots, if you like, quite a lot this year. I mean, I've got some other bigger models to build going forward, but yeah, it's so It was. I had some model Svit decals lying around from the Israeli Shahak I did a couple of years ago. So I decided to do this Israeli one. Sorry, this Argentinian one. So things like the wheels, the missiles, the blade antenna, wheels, missiles, blade antenna. And the little probe on the nose, below the nose here. They were all designed and 3D printed by me. The pitot is master models turned brass. Yeah, it's been a bit of a haul to get here, but we got there in the end. So
one observation is I like the sheen on it. What varnish is that? Is that VMS?
No.
Oh.
No. It's actually it is I think, to use your phrase, bear with. It's GX 114.
Oh,
super smooth, sort of smooth clear, super smooth clear. Is it? What was it? What's it called? Let's put me reading glasses on. Yeah, super smooth clear. Now the problem I generally tend to have with lacquer flats is they don't hide decal varnish. In fact, they can tend to sort of highlight decal edges rather than hide them if you're not careful. So this was a case of I gave it a coat of that. I left it for a few hours and then I gave another coat, and I think it's pretty much done. But it's again very much like I say with VMS, this is a very, very liberal coat. And I think look at that C704 on the starboard wing there. I think I've done a pretty good job of getting rid of the carrier film with varnishes there. So yeah, it's not VMS this time because I experiment, don't I? We know this.
I know that.
So we're always experimenting. But I can remember 10 or a decade and a half ago, I got some. Do you remember Gianotis? You can still get it in Japan, but
sorry, you said, do you remember Gianotis? Yep. In fact, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, we've all got but sort of a decade and a half ago, it was very easy to get from overseas, and then obviously with all the postal regulations coming in, it became next to impossible, and nobody's ever imported it. I had a couple of big pots of their flat clear, and I absolutely loved it. It was just you gave the model 2 really liberal coats of it at the end of the build, and it just settled everything right in. It was absolutely beautiful. And then obviously with these things, they just become unavailable, and you're left. And so I didn't like the Gunzi, the Mistacolor clears for final finishes. This came out, and I've been experimenting with it. And what I like is that whilst I think VMS is still the best acrylic varnish ever, flat and satin is still the best. I do like the way the lacquer coats are a bit hardier. They don't feel that they feel dry when they're dry. Does that make sense?
I know what you mean. Yeah,
acrylic coats they're not sticky, but they've got this kind of weird surface feeling to them.
I'm with you.
Like they're a little bit like a tack rag almost.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not. It's completely dry. It's absolutely dry, but it's just got that feeling to it. This, once it's dry, it feels like you can, it feels durable and hardy.
Yeah.
So,
got a question for you from Jim. Jim says, question: did you use sausages on the topside camouflage scheme?
I mean, there's so many funny answers, but the simple answer is yes. Yeah, it's blue tack. It is blue tack sausages. These days, I used to fill it in with tape, and these days, for the most part, I just fill it in with liquid mask now because it really seals down against the edges. But yeah, that's all done with that's blue tack sausages. You have to be prepared to go back and correct some stuff and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's all blue tack sausages, and I think it just gives a really nice in scale hard edge, I think.
Yep. I found some pictures of my Italeri reboxing of the Eschi Harrier GR1 that I built. Goodness me, that was pre-COVID. and I used sausages for the camo on that, and it ended up looking great. It's such a good technique. It's laborious to do it, but the results are absolutely incroyable, as the French would say.
Yes, yeah, it's they are just they are absolutely fantastic. So and I've been doing it. I think it was Ken Duffy I first saw doing it with flankers back in the 1989, 1990 sort of time. And I sort of went, oh yeah, we'll try that. And and basically I've been using it ever since, because I think a lot of the time in scale it gives a more accurate rendition in smaller scales than freehand airbrushing does. We tend to sort of use our freehand airbrushing chops to show off, but quite often it's not that it's not that representative of the actual aircraft, if you know what I mean. And occasionally I still like to do it to show off, but yeah.
John Connolly says, thanks for another live show, guys. And Drew, is that a light box behind you?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's a little light box. It's let's have a look. It's a little light box I got off Amazon. There you go. It comes with a bunch of different insides. But the good thing is it's so mobile because it's USB powered. So I've got a USB power bank and it's completely mobile. And it's got... So should we switch to another view?
Yeah, you'll have to send me the link to that.
God knows where the link is, John. I don't know. But it's got this, so you can...
What's the make? What's the make of it?
Puluz.
Spell that for me.
Puluz. But it's got a hole in the top, so if you want to shoot straight down, you can.
Yep, found it.
And theoretically, let's get this plugged in. There we go. So in terms of the you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different levels of brightness. You can change the temperature. So up and down, and you can change the temperature as well.
What size is it? Oh, sorry to interrupt. What size is it?
Oh, the 30 centimeter, is it? Or
30 centimeters, right? Okay. Yeah, I'm finding them on. I'll bring the Amazon screen on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where the actual name probably doesn't mean a great deal because it's Chinese, and it's probably, there's probably 50 different retailers of this, and they all just stick their name on the side. But yeah, I mean, it's quite heavyweight. It was about 30 quid or something, but it's perfect for like little 70-second scale models.
Yep, here we go. 40 centimeters. I mean, the prices are up and down here, but 12 by 12 inch.
Yeah, I mean, I think mine's a 12 by 12, but as you can see, there's lots of different sizes.
Yeah.
And what I like is it comes with its own internal LED lights.
Yep.
Because I'm going to have to. There's the one I've got. There you go, the green one there.
Green one, £34.98. I am going to have to. I'm keeping up with the Joneses. I don't want to be out geared here, so I shall be investing in one of them.
But what I like I say, I really like the fact that it's the USB power means, I mean, it's going to last forever on a USB bank because LEDs take up no light, take up no power really. But I love the fact that it's got the internal LED array, so you don't need to sort all your lamps outside and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And if you look at the pictures on my model page of the Mirage, for instance, I took photographs of yesterday. It does the job that I want. So,
No, I'm gonna invest in one of them. I'm just gonna bore you all with my workbench projects here, and then we'll crack on with the tribute to Roy. So, we'll get this built at some stage. This is my Fujimi Mini that I got round to painting the roof on it during the week, but made an absolute horlicks of it. So rubbed it all down. and gave the model another coat of, I've Trizacked the whole body again and gave it another coat of the British Racing Green, which, as you can see, it's really, really shiny now. This is probably as good as I need it for the kind of model that I'm building, because the kind of model I'm building is going to be a semi kind of restoration job. So that's where we are with the Mini at the moment. Oh, so many happy memories, Drew. That trip we had down to Porlock, that was such a blast, wasn't it?
I love the fact that you've abraded the roof, and Dave Fleming said, "Now it looks like one of your Minis."
It does, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Dave.
Remind me to ban Dave, by the way. I hope to catch up with Dave soon at some stage. Anyway, then we have the Airfix Quick Build Sherman. I keep wanting to call it the Lego Sherman, because
that's miles bigger than I thought it was.
That's a Sherman for you.
Yeah, but I thought it was like a little 72nd scale thing.
No, 35th scale. Pucker 35th scale.
Good
one.
Lord.
But as you say, you can see there, that's how it's constructed. Honestly, you'll get a hernia picking this up. So I'm working my way through it just to kind of, just see how much I can deceive people. So as you can see there, I've been hiding things with mud, as is my want, and this is some of the Ammo of Mig acrylic mud, which is absolutely brilliant, by the way. But I've just chucked some there on the hull sides and everything. I shall put some more on the wheels, but the idea is that I'll blast this with some olive drab, then I'll go over the running gear with spray some kind of dusty, muddy colours, and then just do some washes for kind of damp areas.
The only thing I don't like about that is the tracks are really clunky. Other than that, it looks remarkably well realised.
That's because the tracks actually are made to work.
Yeah, so I get the reasoning why it happens, but what I'm saying is, in terms of scale fidelity, if you like, all right, some of the Pioneer tools are a little bit like that. Shoveler a bit clunky. Yeah, but overall, it's a remarkably well rendered Sherman Firefly, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, this is why I wanted to build one. Was, like I say, is once it's painted up and weathered and everything. The other thing I'm going to do is get some putty out and just make a tarp to hide that working hinge there. But but the idea, what I wanted to do was just, paint and weather it like it was an Asuka kit or a Tamiya kit, and then just see how many people see it and then go, wait a minute, Yeah,
so, I think it's one of those things where people have to look at it for a minute or two, and then they'll start zoning in on stuff, like I said, like the tracks, and go, I can see.
Yeah, like the little rings there as well.
Little things are going to give it away, but it's going to require somebody to actually look twice.
Yeah, like I say, this construction-wise, this took how long did this take? About an hour? No, it was about 2 hours. I did it live on the internet. But yeah, so it was about 2 hours. 2 hours construction. But anyway, so that's that. So that's that. The P34 challenge. I have been doing bits and pieces on my Tyrrell 6-wheeler. Not as much as I'd want to, but bits and pieces. So we've got the engine block pretty much together now, but I'm leaving stuff off so that I can facilitate painting a bit better. The other thing I did today was I just placed the roll cage bars into position, then glued them with the idea that I can just remove them,
paint them, pop them back in.
Yeah, exactly. So so that's that. So he's got them out now. He can't get them back in place. No, they just slot in there like that. And then the one thing I had to do today, which is a little bit tricky, very unmodern Tamiya-like, is getting the cockpit shell together, which consists of 2 very flimsy halves and a plastic bar that you kind of glue in the middle. And as I showed on the Facebook feed, there was a little bit of interference on the mating surfaces. that was easily cured with that. In fact, you can see the DNA there of what I did there. So that was just swiped off. Apply some Tamiya extra thing, quick setting in the inside. What I shall do once this is really kind of cured off is I shall run some super glue on the inside and some accelerator or baking powder, just so that it's absolutely rock solid then. Because I get the feeling it probably will flex a little bit when I'm.
I mean, we have to remember, although it's Tamiya, it's sort of 40 years old, isn't it?
Yeah, just a bit. So there's that. That's that. And then also from decades ago, I'm on a car roll at the moment, Drew. I've got the Italeri X Eschi Ford Escort Abarth, of which we've got most of the sub-assembly bits are now all in primer. So again, I am anticipating, and there's the interior is all primed up as well. So I'm anticipating cracking on with bits of that this week, hopefully. And also at some stage, there's the polystyrene bits of block with bits of stuff all covered in primer as well. And then at some stage this week, I am also hoping to open my brilliant birthday present from Tim Maunder, the reciprocating sander. Because I have absolutely no idea how these things work or what they do, but I'm really looking forward to cracking on with it. So, so thank you, Tim. That was very kind of you. Yeah. So that's that. That's pretty much that, Drew.
That's just caught up.
I know you're in stunned silence that I'm actually building models. I know this goes back 20 years ago when you used to say to me, "Oh, you don't build models, John." And
was I wrong at the time?
It was a difficult time, actually. Yeah, it was. Anyway, let's just play catch up with some comments here. Dave Swindle says Roy Cross must have kept many a window cleaner in business. All them noses and fingerprints on shop windows, ogling the box art on the latest Airfix kit release. Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking of Shirley's supermarket newsagents in Wokingham High Street and Cordings as well. Theron Hampton says, Jonathan, what does that French quote mean that you keep saying? Incroyable. It's just French.
Don't you know what? Oh, that's incroyable.
Yeah, it's incroyable. It's French for incredible. It's about the only French I know. And just having a quick look. Joseph Youngerman. Hello, Joseph. He says, raised masks work great in 1/72 scale for a more in-scale pattern edge. Yep.
They're just raised. I love raised masks, but they are such an ache to do.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? In fact, I bought some because I'm intending to do raised masks on the Messerschmitt 410, the Airfix 410, and I've actually bought some waxed thread.
Oh,
with the idea being that I'll cut the masking tape out and then run that around the inside of the division. And that'll raise it up like a little portion, a little bit of a millimeter, and give you this lovely overspray zone. That's the theory. What are you doing anyway, Mr. Youngerman? Why are you here? Aren't you in Switzerland or something with your good lady? All the way to Switzerland to tune into us idiots.
Absolutely, yes. You know, stuffing his face with.
I don't know whether to be flattered or disappointed with you.
Yes. Michael Scott makes a very good point, and in fact, we'll mention this at the end of the show. He says, perhaps Mr. M, a Roy Cross-inspired group build. As a child of the 70s, I would spend hours leafing through the Airfix catalogue and gazing in wonder through the shop window at the simply wonderful box art. We will talk about that at the end of the show, because hold on, lads, I've had an idea. And
is Drew drinking from a Who mug? Yes.
That's the Who mug I bought you, wasn't it?
You've said that last time.
I know I said that last time. I like to remind people.
All right, we get it. You bought me a Who mug.
Yeah, absolutely. My mate Simon bought me a Doctor Who mug, so there we go. Right, shall we? Let's talk about Roy, shall we? Because oh my goodness me, I think to say Roy Cross was a huge part of our formative modelling years and our childhoods is an understatement, isn't it, Drew?
I mean, it can be. I don't potentially, I suppose, controversial, but it can't be a coincidence that Airfix's first round of glory years was the Roy Cross era.
Yeah.
And it can't be a coincidence that Airfix's current strength to strength showing is on the back of Mr. Tooby's artwork.
Yeah.
Artwork sells models.
Yep.
It just does. You know, can you remember the 80s when you were going in and looking at Airfix's boxes and they were just, I have to say, in retrospect, I've got a certain affection for it because it was so awful. But it just, there's no way any of those box arts ever sold a model, is there?
I have a certain affection for them, but it's mostly because it was an era when, you know, when I was in my teens and I had hair, you know.
But you know, you look at Airfix's initial, you know, their first round of glory years, now their current sort of glory years, if you like, that they seem to be well back into. And one of the common threads from that is just fabulous artwork.
Yep. No, absolutely. So shall we jump in? You've got your favorites, I've got my favorites, but we'll jump in first of all with the 24 scale kits, because I think because the packaging was bigger, Roy was able to really kind of, you know,
he could really stretch his legs, couldn't he?
Yeah. And this is the 24 scale Spitfire Mark 1, which I actually had as a birthday present 50 years ago, when my dad took the day off work and we went into Reading and Bracknell, and that was my first trip to a cafe. I told this story the other week, but it was my first trip to a cafe, and I got the Airfix 24 scale Spitfire and the Aurora Styracosaurus. What an incredible birthday that was. Yeah, and I really must.
To me that was because he had more acreage
to
work with. There's just so much detail in that.
It's also the because the packaging reduced the brush strokes. Everything just ties together so much, you know, so much tighter as well. But if you think Roy hit his peak with that one, oh my goodness me, then there is the Hurricane that he did, and that is just stunning, isn't it? That's fine art.
There's just stuff going on.
Yeah.
You know, there's just, you know, there's a story there, isn't there?
Yeah. No, absolutely. But that's not packaging. That is fine art. That is
absolutely,
absolutely beautiful.
Was he in the Guild of Aviation Artists?
He was.
It doesn't surprise me.
No,
but it's just, you know, arguably a lot of his artwork was more accurate than what was in the box.
Yeah. Well, yes. In fact, we'll come to that for one of the other kits in a minute, actually, or a bit later on. But
again, it's just it's managing to take. I mean, these were big boxes.
Yeah.
You know, and taking that acreage and being able to do that sort of work with it, it's just fantastic.
Yeah, but it gets better, doesn't it?
I know that's Spencer's favorite piece of box art ever, isn't it? And it's just,
it's photographic, isn't it? It's just so. The thing is, because I
story there. There's a whole story of
As you know, I went to art college. Okay, Weston-super-Mare School of Art, but it was an art college, and we were taught all about composition and whatever. And there is so much going in on that painting that it's just the genius of how Roy looks. Essentially, he breaks it down into shapes and then says, right, how do we get the shapes to to fit? He used to refer to it as the stupid shape, but how do we get the shapes to fit the box? And honestly, that smoke plume, the other Mustang, the two bombs going off. The two bombs going off there, they're at different angles. And he's angled the background. You've got tanks coming towards you. That's just genius. It really is. Absolutely fabulous. You can tell that we could probably do like a 10-hour show just eulogizing about Roy's artwork.
You know, because there's an endless collection. Yeah, I mean, John, we were talking about this. That wasn't actually a Roy Cross artwork.
That one.
No, he said the 124 Stuka was his favourite, and we were discussing this, weren't we, before?
Yes. Yeah. No, the
Roy Cross, which is why because I was like, why isn't the Stuka there? And then you enlightened me.
Yep, Ken Donner, and then Roy also did the 109, but we'll come back to the 109 in a second because that wasn't the original box art. So and then also, oh goodness me, again, it's just absolutely amazing, isn't it? It tells you everything you need to know about the Harrier in a very simple image.
It's just it's everything about it, the angles, everything is just so well executed.
And also Roy being able to impart a glossy finish on a painting.
Well, it's kind of like I think it was Dave said earlier with that Mustang, and you have to appreciate that all those silvers are greys. They're various shades of grey that gives it, and you look at that and your brain says that's metal.
Yep. And also he researched the background there because that is, by all accounts, that's a very accurate rendering of Dunsfold.
Right.
But there were three other box arts that were originally going to be the prime artwork for some of the 24 scale kits. So that was originally going to be the box art for the Harrier. I can't remember whether Airfix teased this one and whether they actually did use it for the vintage classic one or whether they defaulted back to the actual one. But that was one of Roy's. It could have been a catalogue rough, but that for a while was going to be the box art for the 24.
I'm glad they went with what they went with. That looks very much like Roy not on top form to me.
Okay,
it's not. I mean, it's okay, but it's just there's something that's not quite pulling it all together. If you know what I mean. It's theoretically an exciting piece of box art, but it's just not really not working for me. But
there was also that early artwork for the 109, which I actually prefer because I actually prefer the scheme as well. I love those early.
I prefer the scheme, but I do like what I like about the actual 109E artwork that we saw just now.
Yeah,
is that if you take the Spitfire, the Hurricane, and the 109, almost all those pieces of artwork could be from the same painting. It's like an entire story.
Yep.
It's like an entire storyboard, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Because it's all that they all appear to be inhabiting roughly the same bit of sky, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it feels like one day in June sort of thing.
Yeah. But I love that. I love that scheme.
I've always loved that. I've always really loved that scheme. I do prefer that scheme.
And then there was a I think this was a catalogue rough that appeared in I think it was the 1972 catalogue, but it did get used by MPC in the States. So there we go. I know talking to Tim Maunder, Tim is convinced that this appeared in some of the Airfix boxings, but apologies.
I don't remember seeing it.
No, apologies if I got that wrong, Tim. It certainly did appear in some of the Airfix catalogues. So, but yeah, So there we go. That is some of...
Again, that piece of artwork is not a patch on the actual box for my taste.
No.
You know,
no. Well, I would say that his I would say that 24 scale artwork is amongst it's in my Roy Cross top 5 easily. But let's talk about one that is one of your favorites, and isn't that
just I mean, that is probably, it's difficult because there's so many fabulous pieces of artwork by him, but that is probably my all-time favorite.
Yeah.
And I can remember the very first time, you know, and it harks back to a time, a lot of these boxes hark back to a time when there was no way I could afford these models. So I looked at them in various shops in town, and it was, you know, it was unobtainium.
Yeah.
but it's just, again, it's got everything, including the fact that, you know, it's effectively an accurate piece of artwork, in that the Black Widow, largely in that time in the Pacific, was largely used for airfield attacks at night and stuff. So it's like it's got everything, but it's just an exciting piece of artwork, isn't it?
Yep. It's I just think it is just absolutely stunning. And again, just the composition, his use of light, it's just utterly fabulous. It really is. I'm just going to have a quick read through the comments here to see.
It just makes you want a Black Widow in your life, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, there is.
You know, dear Airfix, if you're thinking of something, you know, we're well overdue a decent 72nd scale Black Widow new tool, and I think, and I would think Airfix would be well up there. For
what's wrong with the Dragon one? Oh, let's not even go there. I built that when it came out.
Speaking as somebody who's built several of them, because I think that we're due a new Black Widow, overdue a new Black Widow, and we're overdue a new Heinkel 219 Night Fighters in 72nd. You know, again, what's wrong with the Dragon one? Well, sit down and I'll tell you.
If you can find any bits on that kit that actually fit together, let me know, because I built it when it came out 30 years ago, and oh my goodness!
Again, I've built several of them over the years, and it's buildable, but largely it's buildable because of how simple the 219 is, and that the wings just plug straight into the side of it, you know, all that kind of stuff. There's no complex sub-assemblies on it, so you can fettle it to fit, but it's not a great model. None of them are.
No, it's a shame, because it's the actual kind of molding standard it's okay, but no, it's a real bind to. You're fighting it all the time, and I always think that there's a certain thing, unless you absolutely love a subject, you get to a point where you just think, I'm fed up with fighting this. And
I've had enough. Can we move on, please?
Yeah.
And the other thing was, I always thought that model had, the 219 especially, that the horizontal tails have got a weird sort of curve to them. There's a really weird curve that you have to try and get out.
Mine went into landfill decades ago. I did actually build it and review it for Ron Firth's magazine, if you remember.
Yes.
Plastic Kit Constructor. But yeah, so here we go. Here's another one of your Roy Cross favorites. I got to say, it's one of mine as well. Oh goodness me, isn't that just? I'm gonna be saying "oh goodness me" a lot tonight, but
again, I mean, I have to say, looking at that, look at the metal. Look at the metal finish. That's all shades of grey.
Yeah,
that's all shades of grey, and you can't tell me that you don't look at that and go, "That's a natural metal aeroplane."
Also, what is very clever about this box art is that the kit actually does include optional parts for 3 versions, and all 3 versions are actually illustrated on the box.
Yes, they are. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, my story for this model is back in 1978. Again, this model was basically unobtainium to me. I was on 40 pence, whatever, a week pocket money. This was, £1.25 or whatever. But my uncle and aunt came over from Canada to visit. and they went out shopping with my brother, my oldest brother, who was in the army at the time. And I can remember they knocked on the front door, and when I opened the front door, my brother said, "Do you prefer the Mitchell or the Wellington?" And I said, "Oh, I prefer the Mitchell." And he went, "Well, then, my dear boy, a Mitchell you shall have," and presented me that model. And I got that, and Rory got the Wellington.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those fixed memories.
Mm-hmm.
And I got the Mitchell. And so that's my story of the Airfix Mitchell. But what a piece of all of these. We discussed this earlier. All of these US subjects they did.
Yeah.
Every piece of box art was just solid gold.
Yeah. Well, you say that, and yet, oh my!
It's just
there we go.
But the thing was, in the 70s and 80s, when I really wanted that kit, it wasn't in production, so you couldn't get it. It was like you were hoping they would re-release it, and it was very much like their Firefly.
Yes,
that was out of production for many years, and it was probably 1982 or 83 before I even realized Airfix had ever done a Firefly.
Yeah.
But that is just, again, it tells an entire story, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Of the role that these aircraft undertook in the war. In the war.
It's again, you know, what you were saying about how Roy had that ability to make grey look like metal. It's just the way he's painted, where the light is catching the curves on the fuselage. He's painted it overexposed, and that's genius. That is. It truly is.
Plus, it's a beautiful aeroplane.
It is, and I built the Airfix kit back in time travel, wibbly wobbly time travel bit, 1994, and I built it as the black scheme. So I ended up just kind of like gluing it together and just literally going at it with a sanding block.
I mean, funnily enough, talking about that, I said I've been 3D printing.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a bunch of the ICM 48 scale ones, and I really must get around to building one. But they messed up all the gun noses on them. They're all 6 millimeters too short.
Oh Lord!
Which is unlike them. So basically, I found somebody did a couple of replacement noses online as STLs. So that one there's a 6-gun nose, and that's the 8-gun nose. So I've been that's when I say I've been printing. That's what I've been printing. To go in the boxes just ready for when I build them. So, and hopefully you can see the kind of detail you can get with 3D printing these days. That's had a light rub over with like 600 grit sticks.
Yeah,
this is a different lighter resin I was experimenting with. I'm not a huge fan of it, if I'm honest, but it was worth the experiment. So yeah, so like I say, there's a 6-gun nose. And there's the 8-gun nose. So it's been a bit of an invader couple of days, if you like, for me.
Jim asks, how about some Roycross armor artwork? Patience, Jim, patience. We'll get there. Don't worry. Like I say, if we were to go through one by one all the bits of artwork that I've got saved up here, we'll be gone through midnight. Trust me. And I've got another show to do after this. So, we've got another one, Drew. You're talking about the American medium bombers that they did. You brace yourself. You ready for this one? Oh, easily my favorite piece of Roycross box art. It's
again, I mean, you're starting off with a beautiful aircraft anyway, and it's just beautiful aircraft. Just add Roy, and just. And I really would like to do my ICM one as Mild and Bitter. Just it's one of those tribute act. I don't care because it's just that artwork just speaks to you, doesn't it?
I can cut you some masks for that in 48. That's not a problem.
I've got a cutter, John.
Oh, okay. I was going to send you the files then.
Yeah, send me the files.
I'll send you the files then. Yeah, it saves my.
I can cut you mask. It's like, hang on a minute.
Stick with me, son. I'll learn you something. But yeah, again, we're talking about composition here. I'm going to bore you with some arty stuff here, but again, it's how he's broken up the emphasis on the aircraft with the brown smoke plumes, and then he's got the white one. It's just utterly brilliant. And again, this is somebody who this is something that you can teach people, right? But you have people who take up a paintbrush who just have that innate ability without needing to be kind of told about it. They're able to take observation and turn it into art. And Roy just had that as a natural gift.
And again, on both the aircraft they're dropping bombs, the bombs aren't aligned with the aircraft.
No,
they're doing what you see bombs do when they drop out of bomb bays and hit the airstream.
Yep.
You know, they do quite random things for a second or two before they sort themselves out.
Yeah, before gravity takes over.
Yeah.
And also, it was Roy who always referred to it as the stupid shape, but there's a reason why you've got that kind of gap. I'm just going to try and see if I can. There's a gap under this fuselage because literally that shape is where the Airfix packaging went.
Right. Yeah.
So it was to do it,
yeah.
But Roy just had that ability to incorporate that, but it still works as a piece of artwork as well. Yep, as I said, that is hands down my favorite piece of Airfix box art. So, folks, we've got quite a few saved up here in the background. Tim Maunder mentions the fairy firefly.
I think they're trying to tell you something, Tim.
Well, learn how to mask canopies, probably.
So
there you go, Tim.
Does Tim need a spare canopy? Better make it 9.
Yeah.
Again, fantastic piece. It's like, you know, for a not a war scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you know, the canopy's open, everything's hanging out. It's, you know, it's clearly doing that piston engine carrier thing of this might work or it might not, which seemed to be the accident rate on aircraft carriers at this time was just phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And this has got that kind of random, whoa, we might make it sort of look about it.
And again, we're talking about composition. Roy's got he's got the conning tower in there. Just to make sure that you know this is Royal Navy, we've got the white ensign there in the background. It's just, I mean, I had as a kid, I just assumed this was D-Day because I had, black and white stripes. So I thought, well, it's obviously Second World War, kind of right-ish. But no. And Mike, here we go. Mike Williams says Firefly is my all-time favorite of Roy's work. There we go, Mike.
And again, if I may be so bold, dear Airfix.
I would wholeheartedly agree with you on that one, Drew. And James Milne says he was an illustrator for Fairey Aviation. He was, yeah, absolutely. Now we've had almost like viewer requests here because somebody's mentioned one of Roy's box arts, and it just so happens that it's actually saved up. It's actually saved up here on the gallery here. We need the gallery music from Vision On. James Milne, not James Milne. It was James Ray says composition. Heracles has pyramids. Yes, it's just that's brilliant, isn't it? Look at that. And that's an awkward shape to paint because it's such a kind of like a weird looking aeroplane that you've got to
it's all fuselage, isn't it? I've always thought it was an attractive aeroplane though.
Yep.
I've always liked it.
Yep.
Where can we put another pair of engines? Oh, stick them on the top. Oh. It's underpowered. What are we going to do? Well, we'll add some more engines.
Yep. No, I've got to say on a personal note, and this is where I kind of have to pinch myself sometimes, is how over the last, well, throughout my entire working relationship with the brand, but how many times mine and Roy's paths cross because I'm doing new decals for stuff based on his artwork. And yeah, I did this one, goodness me, I think this was about a year or two back. And knowing that you're doing a piece of artwork, which is going to be, doing artwork for something which is going to be adorned by one of Roy's paintings, kind of feels special, mate. That's all I can tell you. It's
focuses the mind.
Yeah, and it's kind of, yeah. So folks, if you've James Mill says Heinkel 177. Do you know what? That's one of the ones. That's one of the ones that I didn't get. But I'm just doing a quick search online because I'm sure we can find a piece of box art for it. See, I remember my late uncle Roger, building this when we were around. We were around at my grandparents' farmhouse. There was like a converted farmhouse they had in Hurst, and my uncle was building this, and I just remember being consumed with jealousy that that he had this kit, and being fascinated by the little wire guided rockets on it. This is the best piece of artwork I can find, I'm afraid, James. It's not a clean painting, but let's just oh goodness me, come on brain. There we go. Present, share screen. Come on, StreamYard, make this easier. There we go. That's the box art that James is referring to.
I'm naturally biased because I've always loved the Heinkel 177.
Yep.
I think it's one of those. It's again one of those aeroplanes that was let down by the engines, but actually a really sound aeroplane. And an attractive one as well. That's what I like. It's one I've always found really attractive.
Yep.
And that's a great piece of box art, isn't it? Again, it's not, there's no guns going off, nothing like that, but it's clearly it's still an action-packed scene.
Yeah, it's telling a story. We've also got. I'm just gonna kind of quickly whiz through some of my other favorites as well. So bear with everybody, because I know when we ran I'm not going to call it a poll, but you know what I mean. When we actually asked people for their favorites, this one came up quite a lot.
Yes.
It's beautiful, isn't it? And again, I'm looking at this in terms of composition. It's how Roy has tilted the horizon. It's brilliant, isn't it? I had this kit as a kid as well, and I remember being really kind of impressed at how complex it was and all the extra bits you got in it.
Yeah,
as well.
The thing is, that was one of Airfix's finest kits from the 70s.
Yeah,
that was almost up there, I would suggest, with the Marauder.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you there.
The Marauder was really one of their highest spots ever, wasn't it? It was
the Marauder has an insane amount of interior detail, doesn't it? Yeah. We'll skip on to another one. The number of times I think I had this kit as a kid. Again, it just fires the imagination. He's picked the perfect angle and then balanced it out with the composition going on and the story that's being told.
And was there a degree of mischief in the new tool?
A little bit, yeah. Just a little bit. For those who don't know, right, I'll explain this. Let me just go and file. We are going to overrun tonight, folks, but it's Roy. Of course we're going to overrun.
Again, the bombs. Look at the bombs. Look at the bombs.
Yep. I'm just trying to find the artwork here. Goodness me, when you're trying to find things live on the internet. I think I found it. Yep. Nope, I haven't found it. Oh, why didn't I save? Here we go. I have found. Here we go. Talk amongst yourself, folks.
Ba, 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 ba.
I know. Dun, 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 dun.
Ba, 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 ba.
All right. Here we go. I found it now. Essentially, when the new tool Airfix Blenheim 4 was being put together, one of the things they said to Adam Tooby was kind of homage Roy's artwork. And so, as you can see, that's
exactly what happened.
That's exactly what happened. The one thing that we were able to sort of, correct is, by all accounts, the roundels on these, the free French roundels, were blue, not red. The Cross of Lorraine.
Okay.
So, but I can't remember whether we actually included both in the kit just to cover our bases. But yeah, a couple of times Adam has homaged Roy's artwork, but that was the Blenheim. And Russell, I think Russell's referring to the original one here. He says, oh no, that's Dave. He says you put both on the decals. I did put both on the decals. I'm trying to remember. Russell says the Blenheim kit was nowhere near as good as the box art, and I think he's referring to the old kit. But yeah, shall we? Let's move on to another one. And this is a personal favorite of mine because I remember building this as a kid. And it's such a brilliantly evocative piece of artwork, and that's the original Stuka.
Yeah.
But what is interesting about this is, although the aircraft is kind of level, the horizon isn't, and it instantly sells the whole purpose of the Stuka rather. Yeah, I built that.
That is one of those situations where your eye is almost drawn to the horizon before it's drawn to the aircraft.
Yeah, and you do get a slight bit of vertigo.
Yeah. It's brilliantly done. Absolutely brilliantly done.
Yeah. I'll just skip on to that is again, that is one of my favorites. One of the very rare non-factual things that Roy painted. But oh my goodness me, if you grew up in the 1970s, if you weren't watching a Jerry Anderson show, what were you doing? This is obviously the Angel Interceptor from Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons. It speaks volumes for the brilliant design work by the crew who work for Jerry Anderson, that this actually looks like a real aeroplane, doesn't it?
Yes, it's not. I mean, it's got some odd little additions, but effectively the airframe, it looks within the realms of possibility.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It doesn't look like making it fly would defy physics.
No. And just going back, I think this is about 10 years ago, was that this came up for a reissue, and Hornby said, yeah, can you do decals for it? I actually got on to one of the guys who worked on the show. He sent me some information.
I can remember this discussion with you about this, because you spent a long time working out the decals.
Just the problem you got with the kit is that it's proportionally, it's not quite right. So the Spectrum roundels, when they were made for the models, were all one size. So you've got to, if you did them all one size for the kit, the ones on the fuselage or the wings end up looking wrong. So you have to make them different sizes. Anyway, I put loads of stenciling in, you know me. And yeah, so that was like to be able to do that, it was such an iconic kit for me as a kid. So to actually kind of do that now. Anyway, let's move on. Oh, again, brilliant piece of artwork. Even looking at that now, I want to build that kit.
It's a great piece of, it's just fun. Yeah, again, there's nothing, there's nothing I can really add to you are looking at greatness, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm just gonna jump to the not the highlights reel, but I'm just gonna
Yeah, we're going to scud through a few now.
Yeah, I'm just gonna scud through. I'm just gonna try and find. Oh goodness me! I'm sorry. I'm just trying to find the album so that we can kind of leap through it. Right. Okay. Yeah. Like the next one is the Stone Cold classic, so we're good because the next one is that.
Yeah. There you go.
There you go. Again, we're talking about stories being told. There's one engine out, and most of that rudder is missing.
Wellingtons really didn't do well with box art, did they?
No. The Matchbox one is taking a pasting, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, that's again iconic piece of but that's one of Roy's best. That's in my top 5 easily. And the next one's in my top 5 simply because as a kid, if you walked into a model shop and you saw that, you were kind of tugging at your mum's arm to say, "Can I have that, please?" And no, it's far too expensive. But it just, again, it just tells you everything you need to know about the the Apollo missions.
The magnificence of the Saturn V.
Yeah. Yeah.
The utter magnificence.
Yeah. No, it is. Right, we are going to skip on ahead because, the Hamden. As a kid, it just made me think, why is that fuselage so skinny? But yep, there we go. Heracles, we've already done that one. The 72nd scale Hurricane Mark 1/2, which was where Airfix decided they needed to replace the Mark 4 RP. So they did a brand new kit, but didn't quite appreciate that you can't have a Mark 1/2.
There are subtleties that they didn't catch.
Yes, just a bit. Interesting kit though, but they had a third stab at it with a brand new Mark 1, but that was post Roy Cross. That's the 72nd scale Mustang. Again, beautiful piece of artwork, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always get mixed up with. I remember This Is It, Fool's Paradise, and Cripes Are Mighty are the 3 blue noses they did.
I don't think Fool's Paradise. I don't think Fool's Paradise
was not a blue nose.
No, we'll come to that.
But it's the name I remember. It's the 3 pieces of nose art. I remember them from Mustangs.
Yeah. We'll come to Fool's Paradise in a minute. That again is a lot of people's favourite. The Sunderland taking out the Focke-Wulf.
Everybody's getting a pasting there, aren't they?
Yeah. Nobody's going home early for tea in that one. Let's put it that way. And the Blom and Voss BV141. Again, as a kid, you see that and you think half the aeroplane's missing. What's going on? And I've got very fond memories of being around Dick Ward's house in Farnborough when he was briefing me on doing the decals for that back in the 90s. So again, it's I got to do artwork for Roy Cross box art, and I got to work with Dick Ward.
You certainly get a good idea of where Star Wars got a
the B-wing, yes, absolutely. And Fieseler Storch, absolutely fascinating aeroplane for me. I'm not quite sure about elephants being in the Western Desert, but built that kit 5 years ago, pre-COVID. That was fun,
as fun as I remember.
Yeah, no, it came out okay. I'll post the pictures up onto the page. Junk the Uncas 52. That might actually be a rough rather than the actual box art. The Mark 5B.
Mark 5, yeah.
Again, interesting that it's not a combat painting.
Yes. So, yeah.
And such a fabulous little kit as well. The dogfight double for the Mirage and the MiG-15. Again, as a kid, I remember seeing this in Woolworths and, Mum, can I have that? No.
End of discussion. Moving on.
End of discussion. No, it's not that she wasn't being mean to me. We just simply didn't have the money back then. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, we said this before, when you're a kid, you see something like this and you'd think, oh, well, it's only 55p. But then you realise that if this came out onto the market now, it'd be about 15 quid. And
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
chunk of money, isn't it? So Junkers 88.
That's nice. I really like that.
Yeah. It's telling a very nice story, or not a very grim story. I like the fact you got the bomb misses in the distance as well. The Sterling, again, not a combat painting, but so iconic, isn't it?
Well, it really shows you how enormous the Sterling was.
Yeah, yeah. And also that you get the David Brown tractor and bomb load as well.
Dear FX, why oh why oh why?
Why?
Also, see Sunderland.
Yeah, don't remember seeing this one in the shops.
I don't. I can remember a different box art for the IL2.
Yeah. You're probably thinking of the Charles Oates box art.
Probably am, but I don't. I certainly don't remember this piece.
No. So that was a nice surprise finding that today. Again, absolutely fabulous artwork. Not a combat one, but it's 2 aircraft taking off for a combat mission. And also Roy doing some weathering there. Look at that.
Yeah.
Doing some chipping before modelers actually were doing chipping.
That's great, isn't it? That's like
it's just the tightness of his brushwork on that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, this is another one that I hankered after as a kid as soon as I knew of its existence. And it had to. In fact, by the time it was re-released by FX, I was in a position where I could afford it, so I had one. But again, this is another one of my favorite aeroplanes. I just think it wasn't great, but it looked great. So
I think what surprised me when I finally got my hands on a reissue from about the mid-90s is, despite the fact it's a twin-engine aircraft, it's the size of a single-engine fighter, isn't it?
Yeah. Because those engines are about 695 horsepower each.
Uh-huh.
They're like there's no power there,
you
know, and they're French as well. It was Gnome Rones, wasn't it? It was French engines.
Mm-hmm.
It was a tiny little aeroplane, and obviously with that big 75mm cannon, it was absolutely hopeless. You know, barely get off the ground. Never mind, you know, you could probably throw bottles at it and take it down. It was so slow, but it makes a great looking aeroplane.
It's a great looking aeroplane. Again, beautifully simple, and I've more than a feeling a lot of people like this one. So
very good. I see what
very
you did
good.
there.
Yep.
Again, and what I'm seeing a lot of tonight, John, is that if there's one thing I can take away from a lot of this, is that Airfix have still got a lot of ground to revisit.
Yeah, I wouldn't say no to a new tool, Boston. Wouldn't say no to a new tool one of them as well.
Still got a lot of ground to revisit.
Yep. Oh goodness me! Yeah, look, I can see your house in the background. Again, absolutely iconic. I built this kit 25 years ago. What an action-packed piece of box art that. Again, this is relatively early in Roy's career, so you can see how his style evolved over the years. But yeah, I get the funny feeling. I think that's the end of the reel. Actually, I'm sure there were more that we could
We're not move on to the gag reel then.
Yeah, move on to the gag reel. Let me just scrolls down. Yeah, there are. I know we've overshot a bit, but yeah, okay. We'll do about another 10, and then that'll be it. So there we go. We were asked about tanks. That was the Crusader kit. Very nice model. I think the hull is a bit too long, but it's actually a nice model. You can build the 2 different turret versions from it. So always like the Crusader. Again, one of my favorite bits of box art, and for the simple reason that my family didn't do Guy Fawkes night. We never had fireworks. My mum and dad, instead, they rather than spending money on things that would just burn up, they invested in stuff for us. So we either got Lego or I got a model on Guy Fawkes night. And I got this particular kit one year. Never heard of an Anson. I just remember being fascinated by it. Interesting bit of trivia on this is that there was obviously a miscommunication somewhere in that Roy painted the sloping windscreen, but the kit has the vertical windscreen. So, but it's a beautiful, again, a non-combat painting. It's beautiful, isn't it?
I've always, the thing about the Anson that always amazes me when I see it in model form and in real life is it's big.
Yes.
It's you kind of lump it alongside the Airspeed Oxford, and they are different sizes altogether.
I think it's because the wing on the Anson is quite big and chunky, isn't it?
Yeah.
Canberra. That was a kit from the 1970s, and the Grumman Widgeon, aka the Grumman Gosling. Again, one of those kits that when I saw the picture in the catalogue, I must have that model. Couldn't find it anywhere. But again, if you look at that, it's Roy playing with perspectives and angles, so that you've got the ships, the horizon for the ships, the seascape is at an angle, but then you've got the Arado also at an angle as well. It's brilliant composition. It truly is
very dynamic, isn't it?
Yeah, very dynamic.
Very dynamic.
The Westland.
Look at that! Oh yes.
I built that as a kid. I think the transparencies drew me nuts, but
I mean, it's definitely a type that's designed to drive you nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. As we will find out soon, because I think we're building those new tool ones, aren't we?
Well, apparently. I defer to you on that.
Yeah. I will hasten to point out we're not talking about Airfix new tool ones. We're talking about those ones from. Remind me the name of the manufacturer, Drew.
Oh, I can't
there we
remember.
Go. There we go. Another tank for the tank is out there. That's the Matilda. Brilliant little model. It's just painting that Cornter scheme drives you nuts.
LF, Dave says.
Sorry?
LF is the name of the company.
Oh, right. Okay. Yep. And there's the Leopard 1, which again, we're talking about how Roy's style started to tighten up. That's really quite smooth in terms of brush strokes, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he painted in gouache. So because obviously if he tried painting in oil paints, they'd still be drying now. So he painted with gouache, and it enabled him to get oil painting look, but much quicker. That's a beauty, isn't it?
Yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. And again, there's your mind tells you that's silver.
Yep. What do you do on Sunday? I watched two middle-aged men just eulogize about box art, but
that's a really pretty little piece of box art.
I built that as a kid, and I just remember being fascinated by the shape of the aeroplane, and probably Roy's artwork sold it to me. So
I remember being fascinated by the fact that there's no way on earth I could pack enough weight into the nose.
Yes. Mitsubishi Dina as well. Again, he's just the composition there, and where he's placed the fire and the explosion in the background. The DH4.
That's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah. And again, I think he must have painted this at a larger size, because all that detail
that is very, very highly detailed. That
yes, it pulls together at the
much more detailed than the normal 70-second stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the same with the Curtis Helldiver there as well. That's it's almost like it was done for a larger scale. It wasn't, but you know what I mean. And again, another one of Roy's tanks. That's the Panzer IV. A kit I've never built, actually. I really must get around to doing one at some stage. And dogfight double there, the nice. Albatross and the Sopwith Camel. Dear Airfix, brand new Sopwith Camel, if you don't mind, because I think there's a market out there in 70-second scale.
Yes,
Yep. I mean, what have you got out there? You've nothing. You've got the Edward kit, but yeah. There we go, Drew.
Okay.
Fool's
all right.
Paradise.
forward. Yeah, again, it's just a great piece of artwork, isn't it? It's just, and that was the Series 1 kit, wasn't it? That was the very original. You know, you could get that in the plastic in the bubble wrap.
It was polybagged. I can't remember if it might have gone through to the blister packs.
I think it did. I'm fairly certain. I can remember Channing's in Yeovil going and seeing it hanging on the.
And the Oster Antarctic, just a brilliant piece of box art, isn't it?
It's great. It's like, and again, it just shows that, you know, dear Airfix, you know, if you really feel the urge to do that in 48 scale, I will not object.
Also interesting how that they're actually showing you the ski version and also the float plane as well.
Very down below.
Down below. And that was the first painting that Roy did for Airfix, the Dornier 217, which I think is a very good place to actually sign off on this homage to Roy tonight, because when you see this compared to the Charles Oates artwork, Charles was a completely different artist. He was a much more of a graphic artist and an illustrator. Roy was fine art, and it just shows in the results there. It's beautiful, isn't it?
It's great. Yeah, it's just, it's not a very good representation of a 217, but it's a lovely piece of art.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing that's probably true of so much of Roy's. He was only here, like I say, he only did artwork for Airfix for 10 years, you know, and yet, you know, that it's just a fantastic legacy.
Having said it's not a very good representation of the aircraft, we sometimes tend to forget that this was 65 years ago. We know so much more about these aeroplanes now.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got one more. How could we not have a bit of
look at that. That's just again, it's getting a pasting. Again, the bombs are all at different angles. It's just, again, it's straight from your childhood, isn't it? In fact, I've got the new tool Airfix B17 and a set of aftermarket decals for a bit of lace. It's, you know, all these planned. It's all planned. Whether it ever happens or not is another matter. But
long story short, folks, we've created a gallery of all these box arts. They're actually up on the Interesting Modeling Company Facebook page, so you can go in there and dip in. If there's any that we've missed out, just give us a shout and we will add to them. But no, like I say, the number of people who now work as artists or illustrators, or, you know, work in aviation because of Roy's influence, cannot be you know, overstated, really, can it? And he's a lovely bloke. I met him at Bath back in the mid to late 90s, and I do believe it was when Airfix were showing there, and it was Trevor Snowden grabbed me by the arm and he said, "No, now then, here's somebody I want you to meet." And there was Roy, and he was lovely. He was he patiently answered all my questions. Because I was just like,
which there were 374,000.
Yeah, there was. I was, honestly, it was like fawning fanboy overload. But yeah. So what's your overriding memory then, Drew, of what Roy meant to you then?
For me, John, it takes me back to the 70s and back to looking at so many models and just firing the imagination, and very often being a long time before I could actually afford to have those models in my life. But I mean, that kind of transcends maybe Roy to a large degree. I mean, if you ask me, you know, what was the most triggering piece of box art as a kid for me that made me desperate to have a model, but I couldn't get, but it was years before I got hold of it. It's the Matchbox Viggen. So there are all these really, really strong memories of really strong box art, and just all the shops in town that stocked models that I could walk around town on a Saturday afternoon, going from shop to shop to shop and looking at models, but not being able to buy them.
We got some comments here. James Ray says his airline box art. Unfortunately, James, we've only got an hour-long show and we've overshot that by nearly half an hour. And Mike Williams says, "Where's the F-80 shooting star?" Exclamation mark! Well, Mike, we will.
I don't think that's Roy Cross, because that's 1977.
No, that was the shooting star was Roy Cross.
Oh, so we're still doing the odd bit here and there later on then.
The shooting star, actually, we'll settle this right now. The shooting star, I'm sure, was about 1973.
I thought it was 77. I mean, I'm quite happy to.
Bear with. Airfix P80. I've just gone on to ScaleMates. Here we. It was. Right, 1973, Drew.
All right, okay.
Yep, and I'm just going to call up the wrong one. Stop screen, present, share screen. Again, this is one that came back as a vintage classic a year or so back, and it was one that I always wanted to build as a kid, but you can never find it in Woolworths. And yeah, so again, it's another vintage classic.
Yeah, I mean, I think I built it in maybe 1983, 82.
Right.
I think I built it.
Yep. And again, those bombs, they're not level. They're all a bit akimbo. And you can see why Roy's done it that way, because it's to fit the shape of the logo, the packaging.
Yeah.
So no, we might probably do at some stage, we'll do another Roy show where we'll play catch up on everything else. Yeah, so right, Drew, any other business?
No, not from me. That was an enjoyable show. That was good fun.
Enjoyable in very sad circumstances.
Yes, indeed. But on the other hand, like I said, 100 years ain't shabby. Yep. It's, I would rather celebrate what he gave us.
Yep.
Than be too sort of
absolutely
about his passing.
Which is what we wanted to do tonight, because I think as people watching this will probably gather by our kind of giddy schoolboy enthusiasm for the artwork, is that's what Roy meant to us, and that's what he means to us as well. Yeah. He's gone, but he's still with us.
I mean, to be perfectly blunt, had we been in a situation where we were still celebrating his life rather than, mourning his passing, this show would have been identical.
Yes, yeah, it would have been.
It wouldn't have been any different, would it?
No, absolutely. Right. On that,
I'm going to beat you to the quote, and I'm going to say that's the measure.
Yep. That's it, folks. Hopefully we'll be back next Sunday. You around next Sunday, Drew?
Should be, yeah.
Yeah, good lad. We'll try and do another pop-up live, because we've obviously got P34 challenge to do, and I also want to update you with the work on the Airfix Sherman as well. So we'll see if we can do some pop-up lives. Until the next time, it just remains to me to say thank you for watching, everybody. Stay safe, stay out of trouble, and tonight we will leave you with this. Good night.